The inquiry into school refusal closes to submissions for interviews and evidence today as the government tries to contain the rampant issue. School refusals have tripled since the pandemic and now account for 43% of all absences. Joining us live with more is the Program Director at Triple P International, Carol Markie-Dadds. Carol, really appreciate your time. Thank you. I think any parent can imagine just what a nightmare it would be to have a child who just downs tools and refuses to attend school. What is actually the top reason that kids are giving in terms of why they're refusing to go?
Good afternoon, Ash. Thanks so much for having me today. Now, school refusal is a really complex issue, and there's a number of factors that impact on why children don't want to go to school. And we do know that it's most prevalent amongst 5 and 6 year olds, so those ones who are just starting their first entrance into full-time schooling, as well as 10 to 12-year-olds who are probably getting ready to make that big transition to high school. We know that it's closely related to anxiety, and children can feel very anxious and concerned about the social interactions that they're going to be having in the school grounds. They can also be worried about the academic work that they need to do and whether they can cope with that. They may be worried about bullying at school. And for some children, with the forced lockdowns and absences from school as a result of COVID, they've just become disengaged from schooling. And so there's a whole range of reasons or factors that are impacting on why our children are finding it difficult to cope with school.
And you look at parenting here as well. How much of this has to do with how we do parent our children these days? Is that one of the reasons we are seeing it more widespread now?
Well, parents play a critical role in supporting their children to develop resilience and coping skills and to deal with unpleasant emotions like anxiety and to take on new challenges, such as starting something new. So there are certainly things that we do as parents that can inadvertently encourage avoidant behaviour. And the more we avoid something, the more likely our anxiety about that situation is going to grow, making it harder for us to re-enter that situation. But the good news is there are practical, proven strategies that parents can be using to support their child to develop those skills that they need to take on new challenges well before they're starting school, as well as strategies that they can be using when problems have arisen, so that they can provide high quality support that works to get their children back into the classroom.
And so what are some of the options if a parent's faced with this issue? What should they be doing?
The key things are around routine and predictability, and for children to know what's going to happen next. So when children are feeling safe and secure, they're able to relax in their environment and be ready for learning. So what we would be encouraging parents to do is to have a strong and positive relationship with their school, so teachers can support them and provide them with the tools that they need to help their children. We also know that those transition times when children are about to start school or when the children are off to high school are key times when parents are receptive to information to help their children manage these steps. So we would be calling on schools to make available to parents, as part of their enrolment packs, access to proven parenting programs such as Triple P. And we're really fortunate at this point in time that the Australian government is making our online programs freely available across Australia. So that means the support is there. It's about putting that information into the hands of those parents who are struggling with some school refusal or early signs of anxiety, and those parents who are looking to give their children the best start in life.
You touched on the pandemic earlier. Just how big a factor do you see the pandemic, homeschooling, kids perhaps for the first time in many cases even having the option of being at home and realising that going to school every day doesn't have to happen in some instances? How big an issue is that?
The COVID pandemic has been really disruptive in children's development and their learning and their socialisation skills. So they've missed out, particularly young children have missed out on a lot of those early socialisation opportunities where they learn to get along with others, to share, to speak up in front of others, to speak to other adults from outside their family home. So they haven't had opportunities to practice those skills. And for some children, they're very sensitive now and overwhelmed as a result of the cumulative effects of the pandemic, as well as natural disasters, cost of living pressures, which are all impacting on the family. And the other side of that is that parents are confused and stressed about how to respond. They want to do their best for their children, but at the same time, they may have work commitments that are they're having difficulty maintaining if they need to be at home supervising their child who doesn't want to go to school.
Yeah, it would be pretty impossible, I imagine, in many cases. You mentioned this is happening to kids as early as 5 or 6 years of age. Is it mainly affecting one gender? Are boys or girls more likely to be afflicted by this? Are there different socioeconomic factors at play?
We do know that the impact of COVID and school refusal has impacted on our low-income families, our more vulnerable populations, than other families. In terms of a gender difference, anxiety is more prevalent among girls, but there's still high rates of anxiety amongst our boys as well.
Markie-Dadds, it will be fascinating to see how this all plays out in terms of that parliamentary inquiry. We'll be following it along the way. Really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ash.